On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks find another way to lose a game. Who's the most to blame for the fourth quarter loss and collapse? Kyrie, Jason Kidd, Christian Wood, Jaden Hardy. We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. Subscribe or follow for free wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. It could be anything today. Who is the most to blame for the Mavs loss? Let us know in the comment section. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The fourth quarter quandary, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
They got me, Nick. They got me. Hook, line, and sinker.
They got you real good.
They got me. I even had, you're going to laugh at me here, I even had the standings pulled up.
No.
At the beginning of the fourth.
How?
I was like 3 games in a row. I'm like the playoff run is coming. I was looking at the standings. It's like, dude, are they gonna lock in like a 5 or 6 seed?
Excuse me.
And then just I had to spend the next 10, 15 minutes just kind of like scraping my heart up off the rug in my living room. So yeah, they got me.
The Mavericks fall to the Memphis Grizzlies in an inexplicable 112 to 108 game. We'll talk about the fourth quarter. We'll talk about just not scoring at all. This team that could only score and couldn't defend, couldn't score at all. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jaden Hardy's game. We'll talk about Kyrie Irving's game. All that. Let's start here, Isaac Harris. Who do you blame the most? The Mavericks scored 12 points in the fourth quarter. They basically only scored 9 points in the fourth quarter. They got some late free throws. Christian Wood got fouled on a really dumb 3-point foul by Dillon Brooks, among other dumb things Dillon Brooks did in this game. But who's the most to blame? Where do you start?
I actually think a lot of this has to do with Luka being out. Like I don't know to blame Luka on this. It's not blaming Luka. It's just like the unfortunate thing about him being out for injury. Because for me, I watched this in fourth quarter of saying fourth quarters are normally Kyrie times. But when was the last time Kyrie's had to really carry a team without having a star with him? He's used to having, Durant and LeBron and these guys. And it's like the dude had to, he's used to Luka doing his thing in the first quarter. So then he can save his stuff for the fourth quarter. And that's what I was saying to myself watching the fourth quarter. I'm like, it felt like he was already spent. It felt like he was tired, in that fourth quarter. Because it's like, dude, I'm the only one out here that can create my own dang shot. And he had to do that. I mean, he had 28 points after 3 quarters. So, Mavs fans, I was ready. I was already lining up my Dillon Brooks, Kyrie quote alongside a Kyrie stat line, tweet about to fire it away. But I think that's my biggest takeaway from this game is, man, if Luka's in there, this game's a wrap. Just shut it down. This game's over. Because I don't think Kyrie would have tired out. So there you go. Is that a cop-out answer?
Yes, it was completely. I don't even know if I accept that as an answer because, yeah, sure, if they had Luka, but the Grizzlies could say the same thing. If they had Ja, then they wouldn't have almost lost this game, right? You could say that.
They would have had a shot.
But at a certain point, at a certain point, you need to go to counseling. At a certain point, they would have you have to look at the players on the court and talk about who was playing and talk about why that happened. And we can't just all be sitting there going I'm
not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
We just can't do that. I mean, we're not the coach of the team.
Okay.
But
I could say roster construction.
No, because
that
they had it. They had a 16-point lead in this game. It's not like they were just It's not. Remember that Cavs game earlier this season where they just looked completely overmatched. They just got destroyed, and you're like, okay, this team has no shot against a team with that talent. Then
okay, so is the only answer Jason Kidd?
No, like I think there's a couple people that can get some blame in this. Like, yeah, I think
Jason Kidd definitely gets. I mean, he's definitely on this list to get blame.
I think he deserves some blame for sure. I think you can give blame to Christian Wood, probably to Kyrie. I think for sure for missing shots and forcing shots, and like, man, you just look at what happened at the end of this game, and I kind of go, all right. I start with Jason Kidd for sure because this team is just, and we've said this so many times this season, I apologize to you for listening. If you listen every day, you've heard this so often. This team doesn't run an offense. And so when you get down to these moments, I know what they're going to say afterward. We haven't listened to anything Jason Kidd said post-game or anything. I know exactly what he's going to say.
I can't wait.
Because I know exactly what he's going to say.
I get so excited
the truth.
I get so excited post-game now because you never know what quote we're going to get.
We get Jason Kidd and Kyrie. You never know what's going to happen. But he's going to say, I like the shots we got. We went 1 for 10 from 3 in the fourth quarter, 3 of 21 from the field in the fourth quarter. I like the shots we got. I didn't like the shots that they got because it felt like a lot of them were rushed at the end of a shot clock. Felt like they were forced up. And this team isn't running an offense at times. It's just, what can the one guy do? Which is why Kyrie's thriving. Luka thrived this year. Hardy's been thriving. Like they thrive in those kind of offenses where it's like, you got to do something for us. And Hardy's like, bet, I'll do anything. Like I'll go out there and I'll shoot all the time. And then he makes them and you're like, okay, that's great. The offense. Christian Wood, same thing. They're not running anything. He gets the ball. He can force his shots. He can take these shots. He can go get fouled, which he does really well. And yeah, you're just like, okay, when it all comes down to it, when the sphincter gets tightened, what do you go to as a team? And it has been, let's just go to Luka or Kyrie one-on-one. Well, if Kyrie has been, spent for most of this game, and then also had that weird moment early in the third quarter where he stepped on Dillon Brooks' foot, which is like not even a dirty play by Dillon Brooks. The weirdest thing where you're like, of course, it's an innocuous play where Dillon Brooks wasn't being dirty for once, and Kyrie steps on his foot, tweaks his ankle. I haven't looked it up exactly. NBA.com's not updated yet, but in the second half, Kyrie, hurt that foot pretty early in the third quarter. Second half, Kyrie went 2 of 11. He came back in the game, but he went 2 of 11 in that quarter. So you got to wonder if that ankle affected him. It definitely did on some of those late. You gotta make something happen. You gotta dance. You gotta pull up, a shot like that. But I start with this team just doesn't run an offense, and so when they don't, like your great offense that thrives on these guys being incredible one-on-one, breaks down when one of those guys can't be incredible one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Kidd deserves some blame. I mean, we could talk about the timeout stuff if you want to.
I do.
In the fourth quarter, they go on that big run. I mean, they basically scored 9 points in the fourth. 12, sure, but I mean, for a lot of it there, and they kept on going on the run. They kept on. We've heard him talk about it. I mean, at least nobody died out there, so that's a positive.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
So, I mean, I guess that's just his thing.
But what do you think? What do you think about the timeout thing, though? So the timeout thing is the Mavericks build up a 16-point lead towards the end of the third quarter. They start the fourth quarter basically with a 12, 13-point lead, and then it just goes right down to 5. Like the Grizzlies go on this quick run. They get some offensive rebounds. They get up and down. They do what the Grizzlies do, and like Hardy's the only one that really made a shot in that run because he was the only one that seemed like he wanted to take any shots. Josh Green really shrunk back from the moment. You just didn't. Nobody else. Tim Hardaway Jr. felt like he shrunk back from the moment. Didn't have anybody else really stepping up. Should Kidd be taking timeouts in those early in the quarter runs? Or should he be saving the timeouts? Because you and I were talking before, saving those timeouts helped them in the Lakers game over the weekend, but not saving the timeout seems to have hurt them in these games more often than not.
Yeah, I would definitely. At some point, you got to take it, to stop the bleeding, a little bit. But he obviously doesn't like to take them. He wants to let them go through it, learn, and all of that, and sometimes it's hard to say that cost them a win, whatever it is, but sometimes it has a cost, and they got back in the game. They took the lead, and there you go.
The Mavs have 36 losses. I'm going to guess like at least 10 of them are because I'm not taking timeouts in these runs. It just seems like it comes up every time, right?
Yes, it does seem like it comes up a lot. And some reporters asking him about taking timeouts.
I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
That drop that people will talk about forever, and it is like a thing I see people comment on Reddit, was because of me asking Jason Kidd about calling these timeouts, and that's what he said.
I have to apologize. I'm not playing. I'm watching, just like you guys.
He didn't apologize. That wasn't the drop.
No, he did not apologize. No, that was a different one. So yeah, I start with Jason Kidd, and I start with the coaching and the setup of the offense and the timeout and all that. But I think there's players that deserve some of it too, because they're the ones out there playing at a certain point. So coming up, let's talk about what happened in the fourth quarter. How did Kyrie go scoreless? What do we see in this game? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is the #1 sportsbook in America, and it's Locked On's official sportsbook partner. Go check out what they have available for you. I was just in Vegas recently.
Flex.
Driving through Vegas during the day is the saddest thing that I think you will ever do.
I don't know, it might be pretty sad driving through the night too.
Depends what you see, I guess. You can see anything that they have available. The NBA Finals right now. Who do you think is #1 in the NBA to win the NBA championship? Basically, let's start with that.
The Bucks.
Bucks plus 290. Number 2.
Philly.
Celtics plus 320, so they're just right there behind them. Suns plus 650, so they're a decent ways behind the Celtics. Nuggets plus 750. Sixers plus 900.
Wow.
Just
I don't know. Philly's weirdly growing on me right now.
To win, I can't. I know that they're like playing really well. I cannot bet on James Harden and Doc Rivers to go win an NBA title.
Okay.
But if they get out of the East, I feel pretty good about them against the Nuggets or whoever else makes it out. So if you feel good about that as well, go check it out. Go check out FanDuel.com, promo code LOCKEDON, or FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Get your first bet, no sweat. Check it out, FanDuel.com. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, making it your first listen of the day. We're talking about who has the most to blame for this Dallas Mavericks loss. Fourth quarter, they scored 12 points. 12 points. 12.
That's being generous too. It's kind of not like 9.
It really was only 9. We talked about the lack of the offensive system. We talked about lack of calling these timeouts. Who else do you look at and say, okay, this was a reason why the Mavericks lost this game?
Well, let me defend the roster construction thing just a little bit, because it comes down to the limitations of some of the guys on the team, and you really see it whenever you don't have one of Luka or Kyrie out there. That's why Jaden Hardy popped so much in this game, because he was the only other guy who could create, and only other guy who could do something outside of his main skill set. That's why I was pointing out back last week how I think Maxey, more than anybody, looks completely lost without a Kyrie or Luka. Because he just has to have one of those guys to set him up. He's just not an offensive player on the offensive end. I think
they have multiple players like that. Maxey, Bullock, they have multiple guys.
Well, that's why I said I think Maxey's at the top of that list for me when it comes to the 3 and D, or very specific, I don't know, niche players.
Just a role, a specific role player that plays off of guys, that doesn't create their own stuff.
I think Josh really struggles with adjusting to the role depending on who's playing. And I'm pretty sure I can't remember exactly when he talked about this, but I'm paraphrasing one of his quotes here. He talked earlier in the season about when Luka and Kyrie came back, or when them playing on the floor together, how he has to adjust his game because he doesn't have to be as aggressive offensively because he got those guys. I think that's one of the areas that he's going to have to grow in as a player, is what is your role whenever those guys are playing? Because, I look at earlier in the season when there was no Luka, I don't think Kyrie trade had happened yet. And him and Hardy put up 29 points each. And you're like, oh man, like he knew exactly what his role was that game. So I think it's a little harder for him. I think this is the next level of his game is, all right, what is my role playing off of Kyrie? What is my role whenever Luka and Kyrie are playing, or when they're not playing? All right, I know what I have to do. So that's why I say it's kind of like the roster construction thing, because outside of Kyrie, like some of these guys are so, I hate to say like one-dimensional, but they are one-dimensional, but that one dimension is really good whenever you have the other guys out there on the floor. So that's the roster construction stuff. I can't blame Kyrie in this game. I'm sorry, I just can't. Like, I mean, I guess you could talk about.
At a certain point, he missed the shots, but yeah, like you're not putting a ton of blame on him and saying, "Oh, this was his because he took bad shots or did the wrong thing." Like his process was good in this game.
Yes, and that's the dude got hurt.
Yes,
and like he was questioned before the game for his right foot. Then he got hurt, and then he kept playing, and he had 28 points through 3 quarters. So it's like it's hard for me to kind of blame him there in the fourth whenever it's like, all right, you've had to do a lot of your stuff here. But yeah, I mean, I guess if we had to point at it, you look at like a Tim Hardaway, like they desperately need it in a game without Luka. I mean, you kind of got the Tim production from Hardy off the bench, but Tim missed off. He only took 4 shots, and like if we're just gonna be really blunt, honest right now, Tim doesn't do anything else besides shoot. So why is Tim out there if he's not going to shoot?
Tim's one shot was this little baseline like pull-up shot, and I tweeted about it and said, if Tim can do that more, that's so big because they need him to just do something else. They need him to just be something else besides just a spot-up shooter. And then he never took another shot. I don't think the rest of the game after that. But yeah, I mean, if no one's creating shots for Tim, and that goes back to your roster construction comment, because he's not making his own offense, and so he's just dependent on other guys getting him the ball, and nobody else was getting him the ball. And he wasn't also getting open. And yeah, would you have played Hardy more? Would you have gone with that then in the fourth quarter? Like at what point would you look and say like, all right, we got to get some offense. Let's put Hardy back in.
I mean, I feel like he played it. Let me look at his fourth quarter minutes.
He played 19 minutes total. He played 6 minutes.
A little over half.
He played the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough because it's like, are you gonna play him and Kyrie together? They did in this game. I know, but it's like you're not gonna bench Kyrie in the fourth, even though he's tired, hurt, whatever it is. So it's like, I mean, Hardy was the only one hitting shots. He was the only player who hit a shot in the fourth quarter.
The only one with a field goal.
Yeah, the only one.
Wood had 5 free throws. They're the only 2 to score in the fourth quarter, right?
That
is nuts.
We gotta do a 2022 redraft coming up soon. We gotta put that on the pod list because I was like doing that a little bit during the game of how high would Jaden Hardy go in a redraft right now.
Well, remember, if you ask the Sacramento Kings front office, they're still kicking themselves for letting Hardy go.
I think there's a lot of teams right now that are punching somebody.
Do you think one of those is the Mavericks for not playing him more?
I was thinking a lot, like, I mean, this is when the Mavericks were up by 16, so I was like, man.
You're feeling yourself.
I was thinking about the playoffs. I was thinking about Hardy next year. I'm like, dude, this summer, he's going to kill it.
If he takes a leap,
yeah, it's going to be awesome, and which he still will. That'd be fun. But back down to earth. Yeah, I mean, they could have played him more. Yeah, they could have played him more, but it comes down to defense, too. And, like, Memphis is going on the run, and, I guess for Kidd, that's one thing you can't. This is crazy. One thing you can't blame in this game is really the defense, right? Like,
yeah, not really.
I mean, I know they gave up 112, but
if you consider defense rebounding, some people do like consider that rebounding is defense. Then I mean, this is a game that goes against your rebounding doesn't matter thing.
Oh,
yeah, because they had 6 offensive rebounds in the.
I never said rebounding doesn't matter. Don't put that in my mouth.
You're gonna slap me like Chris Rock. The Grizzlies had 17 offensive rebounds in this game, 22 points off second chance, and that kills you. And that's what the Grizzlies do. Like that's the thing that they're really good at. And so there's somebody that tweeted at me during the game and said they got it. Why don't they put in more rebounding? what rebounding are you putting in? Like, what rebounding? I mean, I guess Christian Wood, but even Christian Wood out there was getting pushed around by Tillman and Jaren Jackson and those guys under the basket.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jaren Jackson, man, that dude's gonna be good if he can stay healthy. He's gonna be dang good.
He was an all-star.
Yeah, well,
he looked so different in this game than he did in the last game. The last game, there was a scout sitting next to me that was like laughing at him the whole time because he looked really bad in the last game the Mavs played. But in this one, he was aggressive. He went out there, 5 fouls. 2 of them were really stupid. But coming up, let's talk about the good. Let's talk about some good stuff. Let's end on a positive note. We saw Jaden Hardy go off again. We saw Kyrie get in his bag. Let's talk about some good things coming up. Coming up next. All right, Isaac Harris, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a loss. Oh my gosh. If you're still listening to us right now after a loss, we love you. Yeah, you're part of the Raccoon Squad, and we appreciate you. Let's talk about some positives.
Let's go back to Jaden Hardy, baby.
Jaden Hardy he's the
Hardy, let's go party.
I can't get too hyped. We lost the dumb games.
We gotta wait till at least the laugh during our media day interview. Jaden Hardy, I thought had some great stuff in this game. Finished the game with 20 points, 4 assists, had a bunch of fouls. Like he's still gonna hurt you on defense for sure. But hit 4 of his threes, 7 of 13 from the field. He's just fearless. And like that step back 3 he took with 9 minutes and 51 seconds left in the fourth, when the Grizzlies are going on their run. I mean, no one else wanted the ball. Nobody else wanted to take a shot. And Jaden Hardy goes, I don't care. Like I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot whenever. I'll have the ball. The crowd will be going crazy. Dylan Brooks will be all up in my business, and I don't care. I'll just go up and I'll take that shot. Love that.
Yeah, when Dylan Brooks got switched off on him a few times, and Hardy was, putting some buckets in him, like, dude, Dylan Brooks. I can't. We lost.
Here we go.
No, we lost. I mean,
Dylan Brooks is one of the most interesting characters that I've ever seen in the NBA.
He is like I tweeted out during the game. I was like, there's these unique players in the league. It's like he's like a bigger version of Pat Beverly in this. Like you're kind of just your mouth, your trash talk, your all of that is like more is bigger than your actual like talent. So like that's how you stay relevant, and there's just not too many like him,
The way I put it was the amount of confidence with the lack of self-awareness compounded by the level of heel that he is.
What are you, a philosopher?
What is this? Is incredible. Is incredible that those 3 things.
I wish I had his confidence so bad.
The amount of confidence he has, the lack of self-awareness. Like my guy has 18 technical fouls. He's going to be suspended their next game. And he's just out there doing the same stuff he was doing before. Like, didn't tone it down one bit in this game. Taunting still, like all that. Which, do you think it's weird that the technical foul thing, if you get an extra technical foul, this may happen to Luka. You're not out of the game you're currently playing. You're out of the next game. Doesn't that seem weird?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that seem like a weird rule overall?
That is weird.
If it happens to Luka, I won't say it's a weird thing. But yeah, Dylan Brooks is just a wild character. People were saying, is Dylan Brooks Lance Stevenson? I was like, I think Dylan Brooks may have more confidence than Lance Stevenson and less self-awareness.
That's really interesting.
But like even Lance Stevenson wasn't getting 18 technical fouls. Like that side of it where he just doesn't care and just doesn't care about so many things.
Yeah, no. I think Dylan Brooks wants to like fight people sometimes. Lance Stevenson, I think, was just goofy. Like I don't think Dylan Brooks is gonna like blow in somebody's ear, like he's gonna like stand up and try to like talk to you.
Lance Stevenson, when he was on the Lakers, would do this air guitar thing too when he hit threes. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't think Dylan Brooks would do that either. Oh my gosh. So seeing Jaden Hardy, I thought that was a positive. There are certain points of this game where I saw Josh Green as a positive. He had 12 points, 3 boards, an assist. But I felt like he shrunk in this moment. And I think you're right when you talked about him earlier, when you said he doesn't really know his role at times. I think he's one of these players, and we knew this when they drafted him, that he's like a Swiss Army knife. He can do a bunch of different things. You can plug him in a bunch of different places. He can be a ball handler. He can be a passer. He can screen. He can defend, bigger guys, smaller guys. He can do all kinds of stuff. He can offensive rebound. He'll get like 1 a game. He did in this one. But like, he doesn't know what to do. He can't do all those things at once. Being that kind of guy takes so long for you to learn how to be all things to all roles at a certain point. And I brought that up, and somebody on YouTube commented and said, well, how can you say that about Josh Green, about him knowing his role, and not say that about Christian Wood knowing his role? I think the difference is Christian Wood with his minutes, like he's just the amount of minutes. When he gets on the floor, he does the same thing, right? He's going to go score. He's going to set screens. He's going to, defend in the same spots pretty much. He switches between the 4 and the 5, but kind of the same. And with Josh Green, though, he's playing a different role. He's being a different thing. One day he's a point guard. Another day he's a wing, like spacing the floor like Reggie Bullock. Another day he's, has the ball in his hands 80 times. It's just so different from night to night.
Yeah. Yeah, the Christian Wood experience, I mean, it feels like every game you're going to get the same gist of the Christian Wood experience. You're going to get some little stretch of minutes to where he's going to score like 8 points straight, hit a couple threes, an and one here, something like that. And then he's going to get 3 offensive fouls. The defensive rotations are tough. That's just, that's what Christian Wood is. And they need his offense. And tonight they had a stretch there to where, I mean, he had a couple monster. He had an awesome dunk, down low. He finished with 20 points in the game, and he had a pretty good stat line: 9 rebounds, 6 assists in this game. I will, a little bit ago, I was talking about how I can't criticize Kyrie. I will criticize Kyrie in this. He finished the game with 0 assists, and that's the one because you start looking at some of the, Maxi's numbers. You look at Reggie's numbers. These are the guys who are the one-dimension type players that we talk about on offense, that they're the 3-and-D guys. Well, Maxey didn't hit a 3. Reggie hit 1 3. Dwight didn't even Dwight took 4 shots in this game. So
he played 12 minutes. He had foul trouble, and Jaren Jackson Jr. just wasn't defending him at a certain point. I think Kid did the good thing in taking him out and playing Christian Wood more. He played Christian Wood like 29 minutes.
Yeah, so when Maxey, Reggie, and Tim, all 3 combined for 1 3-pointer,
you're not going to win there.
Yeah, and you don't have Luka. Like, that's the type of stuff that, and Kyrie had 0 assists. That's why you got to get these guys, going a little bit more. And, they missed shots too, but
they didn't hit enough threes. 11 of 36 from 3. You're just not going to win games with this team the way it's constructed.
Just everything fell apart in the fourth. The defense came back to bite them in the fourth some. Whenever started in the fourth, it's like, let's go. Like, this is going to be a pretty dang good defensive game. And then just everything flipped.
I thought Christian Wood had a good game, though. I thought 20 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. He was giving them good. Yeah. He was giving them good stuff. And then the fourth quarter came, and you're like, oh my gosh, nobody's giving him anything good. It was this weird, like, full team collapse. That if we go back to the original question, who's the most to blame? Put some blame on Kid, and for the players, it's like all of them combined. It's like, I don't know if you can put it on one specific player that was on the court at the end there in the fourth quarter.
What about Frank's little stretch?
Well, the Frank stretch was hilarious in the first half because he goes in before Hardy, and there's a bunch of people tweeting, "How can Jason Kidd still blah blah blah?" You've been on this for a while, and I agree with you. Is that like there's no way Frank should be playing over Hardy at this point in the season. And then he goes in and scores 3 times, 2 threes, 8 points, has a good assist, and you're like, what is happening?
And then Hardy never played again.
And then never played again. And then Hardy came in and scored 20 points off the bench.
Frank's like, I thought I did my job. Like, what? I thought I played well.
Frank's like texting about his record label. He's like trying to sign the next guy. And he's tweeting, any talent in Memphis, please contact Frank Ntilikina. Must speak French.
I'm trying to think if I have anything else.
I'm at a loss with this game. I know we just talked for like 30 minutes, but I'm so at a... Is this another... The Mavs find another way to lose. Are these... Last year, we talked a lot about Mavs finding ways to win games, and we were so hyped about that. This season, it's ways they lose games. Is that the inverse? Is that just as damaging as the ways to win games are helpful?
Hey, that Spurs game was going to really test it.
Both of them, the Lakers game and the Spurs game last week.
Just looking at the Memphis stuff real quick, I thought Luke Kennard had a stretch there to where I was like, really? Are we going to get beat by Luke Kennard? He was a plus 18 in this game.
Well, he was out there during that fourth quarter run.
Yeah, and Roddy the Body, they held him in check. One of those last few games he went off there.
He came back. He regressed to the mean. That guy did. 29% three-point shooter, goes nuts against the Mavs for 2 games. He was bound to come back to earth.
Yeah, but Desmond Bane didn't. It's not like he went off in this game. He
was bad. I thought for a lot of this game.
Yeah, they had no answer for Jaren Jackson. I mean, that's one of the stories for the Mavs as far as bigs go. It's just once they put him back in the game, it's like he could score at will. He's going to score on anybody. Dwight, Christian Wood, Maxey. I mean,
28 points, 16 shots, 23 minutes for Jaren Jackson. He was a different player. I mean, he did not care about Dwight Powell at all. That's why Dwight Powell didn't play late in this game, and he shouldn't have.
Yeah, they've lost 3 games now to Memphis over the past week and a half. So,
what did I say? What did I say going into this stretch that would define the season? What was the one thing I wanted them to do?
Beat Memphis.
Beat Memphis all 3 times, and then Luka gets hurt. Well, and here we are. That's how this season has gone. You're like, all right, this is something you guys should do. Like Memphis is in shambles, then Luka gets hurt, and then you're like, everything changes.
I mean, the West is in shambles. All right, to be fair,
they're fine in the West.
I don't know what team you're confident about in the West. That's one of the biggest selling points right now. If you're a Mavs fan, you're telling yourself, the Mavs are telling themselves of like, dude, the West is wide open, right? Like it takes one team to get super hot, for a month for you to make a run into playoffs. And
how many times have we had like one team win 50 games on a conference?
I don't know. That would be a question for Stathead.
The Grizzlies on this pace right now would win 50 games.
Wow.
So the Nuggets are 2 wins away. The Grizzlies could win 50 games, but we'll see. The Kings are just off the pace, but they have some more games to play than the Grizzlies.
Light the boom.
Insane. All right, there you go. Let us know in the comment section who's the most to blame. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Tomorrow we'll be back on the podcast, and then we'll have, I think, maybe the game that may define the Mavs season, but a very big game against the Warriors on Wednesday. We will definitely have a post game for you guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.